I want to bring 3 points of public education to your attention this morning. The safety poster sign talks about the emergency notification signs, ENSs. These are blue signs that are at every single railroad crossing in the state of Utah. If you come across a front runner crossing or a light rail, that actually calls our control room. So if there's any issues that have a safety concern when you're at that crossing, that telephone number and the grade crossing indicator is at that crossing. You can call that number. Second thing I want to talk to you about is that for any people that do any construction work or have anything to do on or around our railroad, they are required to have roadway worker protection training. That is a training that we do at UTA. I wanted to bring that to your attention because this morning we trained 136 employees of a pipeline company that will be doing work on and around the UTA system. So anybody who's around our system gets a safety introduction, so they're aware of the protocols there. And last thing, I have the honor of serving on the Operation Lifesaver State Board. This is an education program, and we wear our Operation Lifesaver Railroad Crossing Safety Pins. And the reason I bring that to your attention, we had our Safety Awards banquet last month. James Jordan, who's the FRA Regional Administrator, actually came over from California specifically to attend that banquet for us. We educate at safety fairs at schools, and every public driver's education program in the state of Utah has a railroad safety block that is presented in part of that training. So the Operation Lifesaver does a great job at educating railroad safety throughout the state of Utah, and it's a national organization. We're proud to be a participant of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dave, for all the great work that your safety group does. I would like to state for the record that we have 3 trustees participating by telephone today. Trustees Greg Bell, Sherry Hall Everett, and Mayor Troy Walker. We have 3 trustees that are excused today: Keith Bartholomew, Babs DeLay, and Jeff Hawker. Bob, do we have any people that filled out cards for public comments today?
I do not have any cards for public comment.
All right, we will move directly on to item 3, which is the single item today to consider at this special meeting, which is the Provo Orem Trip Property Report. Steve Meyer, are you going to present that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the board for taking the time for this meeting. This is an important issue for the project. The Provo Orem Transportation Improvement Project, Provo Orem TRIP, is a joint project with UDOT and consisting of the Provo Orem BRT and some highway improvements to the University Parkway. We're jointly doing that with UDOT. UTA is managing the design, the construction, and the property acquisition for the project. Construction right now is about 23% complete, and we're heading into our biggest construction season here in 2017. As we've advanced the design, there are 143 properties impacted by the project. 85 of those parcels require some property acquisition, with 1 total property acquisition and relocation. 143 parcels require some temporary construction easements, allow us to get in there and do work beyond what any acquisition limits would be. 43 properties require a perpetual easement for some element of utilities and something like that. We've made great progress on the project to date. We have, of the 143 impacted, we've reached settlement on 73 parcels. Of the remaining 67, 6 are under contract, 31 are in active negotiation, and the contractor has access to 62% of the property on the project. So today's staff is requesting discussions with the board regarding some of the remaining properties, and a closed session is requested because public discussion would prevent the authority from completing the transactions in the best possible term.
Thank you, Steve. Is there any public comment on this?
There were none from the internet, and I do not have any cards.
Thank you. Having said that, I would then entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss a real estate transaction. Is there a second? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed or any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is unanimous. We will go into closed session. We'll take about a 5-minute recess. And ask those that don't need to be present to please excuse themselves.
We are now back on the record.
Prior to entertaining a motion with respect to what went on in the closed session, I think Steve Meyer is going to report a little bit on some of the factors that go into these condemnation considerations. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, we were looking at properties along the Provo-Orem Transportation Improvement Project that we need to move forward with due to construction timing, and we're requesting authorization from the board to allow us to enter the condemnation process.
Different properties are at different stages of that.
Process. It's very unlikely that we'll go through the entire condemnation process. Our negotiations will continue as we move through that process. There's rights that the property owners have for additional appraisals and negotiation. There's a state ombudsman that assists with negotiations and advocates for the property owners and educates them about the eminent domain process. Our purpose in the closed session was to be able to talk details of the process and details of the properties and not disadvantage either the property owner or the authority in our ability to negotiate by making some of those items public.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I would now entertain a motion coming out of closed session.
Mr. Chair. Conflicts.
Well, let's have the motion first.
Mr. Chair, I move that the UTA Board of Trustees authorize UTA staff to move forward with the eminent domain process for the properties identified and discussed in our closed session.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Before we have any discussion or have a vote on this matter, I want to ask whether any of the trustees, having reviewed the list of properties that are involved in this motion, have any conflict of interest or anything they want to raise in terms of an interest with respect to any of those properties. And seeing no response.
Oh, Mayor Taylor.
I just wanted to mention, Chairman, that I own several properties in Provo area, but in the brief time I had to review, I didn't see any conflicts. And I certainly haven't received a condemnation letter, so.
All right. So with that in mind, and not hearing any other comments, I'm assuming that there are no persons that believe they have any conflicts of interest in this, so we can proceed. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I will then call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Are there any opposed? Aye. Are there any abstentions?
Mr. Chairman, I actually want to make a comment on an abstention if I could.
Sure.
I just wanted to explain, I'm abstaining from this vote for a couple of reasons. One, primarily I'm, as I mentioned, not entirely comfortable myself with the process and the decision, although out of respect for the process that I was not a part of. I'm coming in here well more than halfway through this process, so I'm abstaining, not voting no. But I just personally feel that eminent domain was such a serious thing. It's the most serious thing we do. I'd like to have seen some of these progress further and see some of the second appraisals and things come in. And also, I'd like to ask, as I did when I abstained from the sale of property vote we took in January for similar reasons, that more of this information be sent to the board in advance of the meeting so that we have a time to review it and really go through it ahead of the meeting. I know there's been past committee meetings and things I was not here for, and again, I respect the work that was done, but that's why I'm abstaining. I just personally don't feel comfortable with what I know about this based on the information we received, and I'll be sending some thoughts on that to the board members and some ideas on how we can improve these processes. So I hope you'll take a look at those. I think having someone who has a different opinions about the most valuable thing that can happen on a board like this, so I would ask you to please take a look at those. I'll be emailing those out to the board. Thank you.
Your abstention is noted.
Mr. Chair, just curious, does our bylaws allow for abstention? Some boards, you can only abstain if you have a conflict.
We have allowed people to abstain in the past.
Okay.
All right. Well, the motion carries with the one noted abstention. I appreciate everybody coming to this special session on pretty short notice. Thank you for that. That does conclude the business of this today. We called for the question. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We are therefore adjourned. Thank you.